bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
All right, welcome, Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man, today's Thursday, April 13th, 103 days into the new year, just 262 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? It's Thursday night. It's Fader night. Got a special show lined up, because it's Fader night. Open lines all night long, all that stuff. Like to welcome everybody right now watching on the Bunker Cam. And tonight, we're going to have Jon Rappoport with us all night long. So yes, he's going to be here with his No More Fake Newsroom Live. And then Jon is going to stay with us and take your phone calls with a discussion about the recent military moves around the United States and around the world over this past week. The deep state. We're gonna do all of that, and we're gonna take your phone calls. We're gonna talk UFOs and conspiracy theory and all that fun stuff tonight with Jon. So get ready. The call-in number is 323-825-5045, and I can't think of a more perfect evening. We haven't done this in a long time with Jon. And, you know, he comes in, he blesses us with his wisdom, and then gone, right? Just gone. Passing ships in the night. But not tonight. That's not what we're going to do. Jon's going to be here all night long. Too much stuff that we need to get sucked out of him, his brain. And that's what we're going to do tonight. All right? Now, follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do. Follow us on Twitter and engage in the discussion. On Thursday nights with Fader Night, the sandbox is completely jammed up. And if you know, and I know this is it's a great audience that we have here. And the amount of the ratio of who is in Twitter and who is just kicking back listening to the show, I get that. It's small. We do a few thousand tweets in Twitter and TweetDeck and the chat rooms and all of that stuff. But the vast majority of everybody just kicks back and listens. But you hear me talking about this all the time. So really, what and if you're not on Twitter, just go get a Twitter account. It's simple. And then the next stage is go and get TweetDeck. And I assure you, it will be a life-changing experience on how you listen to this show. Come and hang out with the family and engage. It's a lot of fun. All right? It's a troll-free zone. Completely troll-free. If you ever want to see somebody get drop-kicked, that's really funny. Watch somebody come in here and try to goof around and just watch what happens. It's hilarious. It's probably more fun than listening to the show itself. So come hang out with us. The sandbox is hashtag F2B. in Twitter. Okay, you can email throughout the show, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Any questions or comments during the show, hashtag F2BQ on Twitter. You can email, you can hit me right here in Twitter. Twitter is always live. It's right up in front of me. The chat rooms are live, always up in front of me. And let's get the chat rooms going, actually. See, I just fibbed. And the people that are watching right now, you Fadernauts that are watching on the bunker cam, just watched me turn on the chat rooms. Chat rooms are live. They're right here. Okay? All right. Let's get this show cracking. We've got a lot to do tonight and Thursday night here on the show. And for those of you that are new, Thursday night is open lines. That's what we do. It's called Fader Night. We take phone calls. Every Thursday night, we have Jon Rappoport in here with his No More Fake Newsroom to kick the show off. And then it's open lines free for all from there on out. Okay, so the phone number is 323-825-5045. Breaking news. Today, I think we all woke up to this or caught it throughout the day. The United States military dropped a GBU 43/B Moab, the mother of all bombs, on an ISIS underground cave and tunnel complex in the Nangarhar province in eastern Afghanistan. It was the first time that this 21,000-pound weapon, the biggest non-nuclear ordnance that we have, first time it was used in a combat situation. The extent of the damage and whether anyone was killed is not yet clear. The military is currently conducting an assessment. Now, we'll be talking about this all night tonight, I'm sure. But this bomb and the material that it uses is not meant to, well, it will blow things up, but that's, it's not about that. This is a concussion. This destroys with air pressure. What a frightening thought. It just disintegrates. And the human body, biology, right? And it's got a 1 mile circumference. So there you go. It's the biggest non-nuclear weapon that we have. Is it sending a message? Is this, coming on the heels of what's going on in North Korea? Right? What's going on here? We're going to talk about this later on in the show. Okay, there you go. Breaking news. Subscribe to our podcast. Over 600 archive shows, custom apps, Apple and Android, all platforms, just $2 a month. Go over to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the podcast banner. Simple enough. Please visit all of our sponsors, Life Change Tea, GetTheTea.com, or River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend coffee, and Studio Dome speakers, and all of our advertisers that you hear throughout the show. Please go and visit those sites and their banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. All the promo codes that you need are right there in the banners. Okay, a couple of updates on Contact in the Desert, which is coming up May 19th through the 22nd in Joshua Tree, California. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. The banner for Contact in the Desert is over at jimmychurchradio.com. Everything that you need to know, hotels, food, lodging, all of that, tickets, discounts, and so forth are all over there at jimmychurchradio.com. Now, I'll be hosting now 2 panels. Okay, I was hosting one. Now I'm hosting a second panel. We're going to broadcast Fade to Black live on Friday night from 7 to 10 p.m. in the Lotus Room. That's one of the big events, not only for us all year, but for Contact in the Desert. So you want to be there for that. But I'll be hosting the Forbidden Archaeology panel with Graham Hancock, Robert Bivall, Robert Schock, Andrew Collins, Brian Forster, and Carl Oberger. That's going to be Under the Stars, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. in the amphitheater. That's on Saturday night. Then on Sunday night, I'll be hosting the Disclosure panel, government cover-ups and crash retrievals. And my panelists for this are Nick Pope, Senator Mike Gravile, Jim Mars, Linda Moulton Howe, Richard Dolan, Patty Greer, and Scott and Susan Ramsey. That is also in the amphitheater Under the Stars from 7 p.m. to 8:30 on Sunday night. There you go. Man, what a weekend Contact in the Desert is going to be. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. Let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to the one, the only man from Memphis, Al Green. Al Green today is 71 years old. Happy birthday, Al. Ron Perlman today is Hellboy, by the way, is 67. He's got a new TV series out. It's called Hand of God. It's in its second season. We watched the first season. We binged it. Haven't gotten to the second season, but Ron Perlman today, 67. And Stained frontman Aaron Lewis today is 45. On this day in history, OTD. On this day in history in 1970, disaster strikes 200,000 miles from Earth when oxygen tank number 2 blows up on Apollo 13, the third manned lunar landing mission. On this day in 1970, they got home safe. Fader fact. Now this is a Fader fact. Now just follow me on this. You ready? Alligators don't get serious infections from cuts and bruises, even while living in bacteria-infested swamps. Now, you and I get a cut, we go swimming in a bacteria-infested swamp, we get a flesh-eating, our arm falls off, right? Not alligators. You ever wonder about that? Their blood is effective against 23 types of bacteria, fungi, and viruses, including HIV. And that is a Fader fact. I want alligator blood. I want some reptilian blood. Tonight, it's another Fader night with Jon Rappoport, and there's no more fake newsroom, except it's a full night of Jon Rappoport tonight. He's going to be here taking your phone calls. We're going to do no more fake newsroom here at the bottom of the hour. Then we're going to roll into a full night of open lines with Jon Rappoport. So I'm really looking forward to that. Now, today it was announced. Drip, 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 right? Major press conference today with NASA. And they announced that Enceladus, Saturn's moon, could support life thanks to the presence of hydrogen that has been discovered. Now, we all know about the oceans, right? Because it is known as an ocean world, and Enceladus has been spewing off hydrogen from a plume. And this was according to today, Linda Spilker, the Cassini project scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory right here in Pasadena, California. The findings are the result of 12 years of investigation by the Cassini spacecraft and were released in a paper from researchers with the Cassini mission, and it was published today in the journal Science. Now, so far, Enceladus has shown to have the existence of nearly all of the elements of habitability. You've got primaries like carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur. And except for phosphorus and sulfur, by the way, they think that there's evidence of that because the rocky core, which is thought to be chemically similar to meteorites, always contain phosphorus and sulfur. So Enceladus has got all the stuff, right? In addition, the Hubble telescope observed that there was probably a plume of hydrogen released from Europa. Yeah, Europa, the smallest of the 4 moons orbiting Jupiter. Now, observations were first made in 2016 as well as 2014, which bolsters evidence that Europa plumes could be a real phenomenon flaring up intermittently in the same region on the moon's surface. Now, Arthur C. Clarke. Arthur C. Clarke first wrote about this and predicted life on Europa. And at that time, it seemed like pure science fiction. You know the drill. Fun to think about, fun to trip on, fun to read, fun to watch on the big screen. And if you remember the ending of 2010, now 2001, my favorite movie of all time, no question about that. But let me tell you something. 2010 is almost there. It's almost there. It's the story of 2010 that holds water there. No pun intended. But at the end of 2010, we had these words splash across the screen. All these worlds are ours. Except Europa. Oh, I'm sorry. All these worlds are yours, except Europa. Attempt no landing there. Use them together. Use them in peace. And that's what flashed across the screen. That was the message from the monolith as Jupiter went black with the reproduction of the monoliths, if you remember. And they thought it was a storm. And that message was there. And this goes back a long, long time. Okay, this just wasn't in 2010, right? The movie was called 2010. Now, this show and the FADERNIGHts know about this, and we speak about it often. Not only the predictions of Arthur C. Clarke and others, but 2001 and 2010 and Europa and the moons and those predictions that Arthur C. Clarke made. It didn't just stop there. You know, it was the picture phone, satellites, computer networks, geostationary orbits. Think about the predictions and the fantasy that Arthur wrote about came to pass. And here we had Arthur writing about Europa. And then we get this announcement today for Enceladus with asterisk about Europa. Last night I mentioned the new Star Trek fragrances, the perfume. I don't want to call them perfume because some are for men. Do you call that? No. What do you call that for men? It's not aftershave. What do you call a cologne? The new Star Trek colognes, but there's one for women, so that's a fragrance. I don't know, whatever. But I talked about that last night, and that the colors of the communicators, right? Because the bottles that they come in are shaped like an actual communicator. And each communicator represents the shirts that the crew members wore on the show, right? You remember that last night. And the question about the red shirts popped up in Twitter. I got email about it today. What about the red shirt fragrance, right? Don't get the red shirt fragrance because you're going to be the first to die. Well, Star Trek... Just go with me on this, okay? All right, this all ties together, believe it or not. Star Trek, along with Clarke and 2001, predicted a lot of technology and included a lot of science fiction ideas, such as warp speed, going faster than the speed of light, transports that teleport you or something from one place to another, and of course, those famous communicators. Because now we've got cell phones, right? But remember the flip version of the cell phones, those were communicators, weren't they? But I look at Gene Roddenberry and Star Trek for this, to be honest with you. And if you think about it, if you just give a scientist or an engineer an idea, things just happen. It just works that way. And it's so cool when it does. And I look around, you know, not only this studio, and I think about what this studio is right here. And you think, you know, those sets on spaceships and those ideas, you know, the flat screens and like, you know, look, you know, a wireless keyboard, right? I'm doing this in front of the bunker camp. A wireless keyboard. I mean, who would have thought about this kind of stuff, right? But now we have it everywhere. You know, 64 gigabytes on a little USB drive. I'm holding up a teeny tiny. I've even got smaller drives than this. I mean, who would have thought that you would have, again, 32 gigabytes on that? That's insane, right? Science fiction. It's all come to life. Well, you've got to love it when it happens. And then you have to ask the questions about the red shirts, because when I brought up the communicators last night, and I was talking about science fiction today and technology and where it's taken us, those communicators were a big deal. And it got me thinking about those red shirts. Don't be a red shirt, with the because you're going to die first, right? Well, you remember when, and this is what, here it is right here. This is what the red shirts with expendable. There you go. All right. There you go. I just retweeted that. Remember Sam Rockwell in Galaxy Quest, right? And he played the role of Guy. And he had that famous quote. Well, actually, he said it like 4 or 5 times in the movie, but that famous quote, "I'm crewman number 6, man. I'm expendable," right? I'm the guy who dies before the situation is even serious. I die in page 1. I die in the first 5 minutes. That was the red shirt. Well, it's not exactly true, because you have that age-old assertion, which is all over Twitter right now, and I see it, that crew members wearing red shirts in the original Star Trek series, which indicated that they were either an engineer or security, right? Whenever somebody was getting arrested, right, the red shirts would come in. And that they were the guys that died, and they were far more likely to be killed off than any other shirt color. Well, that claim, in fact, is false. More red shirts died on screen than any other crew type, for sure. But it's false. And here are the numbers. This is everybody that died in the series. You had 10 gold-shirted, which were command personnel. You had 8 blue-shirted, who were scientists, and 25 red shirts. But that 25. Okay, I see that. But that calculation fails to take into account that there are far more red shirts on the ship to start with than any other crew type. So, in other words, what we're looking at is the probability that you are a red shirt if you die, and that actually comes out to 58%. What we want to know is the probability that you die if you are a red shirt. Well, in the original Star Trek manual, we find that out of 239 red shirts, that's from the Star Trek manual, 25 died, which is 10%. Out of the 55 gold shirts in the Star Trek technical manual, 10 died, which is 18%. So you're more likely to die in the series if you were a command personnel. If you were a red shirt, you were actually in the clear. Only 6% of the blue-shirted scientists died over the course of the show. And this is where things also get interesting. Because there we have Drake's equation, and which we talk about a lot. Frank Drake, through his math and variables, came up with how common extraterrestrial life would be. And that number was between 1,000 and 100 million civilizations that we could come in contact with. Takes everything into account. Gene Roddenberry used this when he pitched Star Trek to the network. He used Drake's equation. And he did it because you got to have action on the show. And so what was the probability of running into all of these alien civilizations out there so they could do it like every week on the show, on every episode? And he said, look, it's not just one alien civilization out there. There's possibly hundreds of millions. And so if we put this ship together, when we're out there, we're traveling every stop that we make, we could potentially be interacting with another alien species on a planet. And the network said, go for it. And that was part of the science fiction that was based on science from Drake's equation. And if you think about it, what was announced today, again by NASA, with Enceladus and Europa, it's science fiction coming true again. And with Frank Drake and Gene Roddenberry and Star Trek and everything that they have done, right? It looks like the last part of science fiction that we have been waiting for is here. Because it looks like, to me, from this side of the microphone, that the Arthur C. Clarke vision just happened. Now, what about Gene Roddenberry and Frank Drake? Is it the last little piece of the puzzle? We got the warp drives. We've got quantum theory and mechanics and faster than the speed of light. We've pretty much got that dialed, don't we? Right? We've exited the solar system. We've visited all of the planets here in one way or another. Exciting times indeed. Think about that. Now, when I talk about drip, 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 and people want to know about disclosure, I think it's here. I think it's here. I don't know what's right around the corner, but the big one is about to happen. And this is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight is Fader Night. It's Thursday, but it's not just any other Fader Night, because we have Jon Rappoport here with his No More Fake Newsroom, followed by a full night of Jon Rappoport and your phone calls all night long. All of it is kicking off next after this short commercial break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. Let's wind the clocks back 60 years. Food was different. Food provided health and nutrition, and using supplements was minimal. Unfortunately, now we have chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides that can be quite lethal in the name of our food supply and, of course, the ever-loving dollar. Supplementing our diets can be very important to stay healthy. Cleansing from daily intruders to the body might be critical. Live strong and take charge. Log on to getthetea.com. Our herbal tea is a great way to cleanse from intruders. Our supplements is a great way to maintain and improve your health. When your health is not up to par, go to getthetea.com. No GMOs, no fillers, and organic, and very helpful in keeping you at the top of your game. Life is too short to feel, you know what I mean. Stay in the game, at the top of your game with getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Again, getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Kletsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station where the Fadernauts rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Combat, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
And now, coming to you from the No More Fake Newsroom in Deep Space, which is the space that we suspect to be true, that the world, as it is fed to us every single day by the Ministry of Truth, is a lie, a false reality. This, however, is the breakout. All the screens crash, they all go down, and we see the light of day. A new day. No more robots. No more androids. It's the No More Fake Newsroom with Jon Rappoport. Take it away, John.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you. Good to be here once again. So let's see. We've got Syria, and more Syria. Talked about this a bit last week, but I want to get in deeper. Just posted a piece up on No More Fake News, headlined, Top 10 Reasons to Doubt Official Story on Assad Poison Gas Attack. I'm going to read copiously from the article. The sarin gas attack story prompted the U.S. missile strike on a Syrian runway. Here are the top 10 reasons for doubting that story and instead calling it a convenient pretext for the missile strike. So I'm going to give you these reasons. And I've been scouring around and looking to see what is being said about this outside the mainstream, and lo and behold, there's some very interesting things. Reason one, photos show rescue workers treating/decontaminating people injured or killed in the gas attack. The workers aren't wearing gloves or protective gear. Only the clueless or crazy would expose themselves to sarin residue, which can be fatal. So that right away casts some doubt here. What are these photos? Rescue workers understand the dangers here involved, and they're not going to be touching these people, touching their clothes with no gloves. I mean, it's just bizarre, ridiculous. Reason two, MIT professor Thomas Postel told RT, quote, I believe it can be shown without doubt that the U.S. intelligence document does not provide any evidence whatsoever that the U.S. government has concrete knowledge that the government of Syria was the source of the chemical attack. Any competent analyst would have had questions about whether the debris in the crater was staged or real. No competent analyst would miss the fact that the alleged sarin canister was forcefully crushed from above rather than exploded by a munition within it, end quote. And then I write, how would a canister purportedly dropped from an Assad-ordered plane incur crushing from above? And you can look up the RT story and you'll see a photo of the canister in the crater. So just in case you've been living under a rock for the last week or so, the whole idea here, is described in major media and by the Trump administration is, well, this horrendous act was committed by President Assad of Syria, used chemical weapons, sarin gas, on his own people, dropped from airplanes, and therefore, we have to do something about this, and therefore the missile strike that Trump ordered was launched, okay? Just in case you're living under a rock. Reason 3, why would President Assad, supported by Russia, scoring victory after victory against ISIS, moving closer to peace negotiations, suddenly risk all his gains by dropping sarin gas on his own people? Reason 4, in an interview with Scott Horton, ex-CIA officer Phil Giraldi states that his intelligence and military sources indicate Assad didn't attack his own people with poison gas. 5, ex-CIA officer Ray McGovern states that his military sources report an Assad airstrike did hit a chemical plant and the fallout killed people, but the attack was not planned for that purpose. There was no knowledge the chemicals were lethal. 6, at consortiumnews.com, journalist Robert Parry writes, there is a dark mystery behind the White House released photo showing President Trump and more than a dozen advisors meeting at his estate at Mar-a-Lago after his decision to strike Syria with Tomahawk missiles. Where are CIA Director Mike Pompeo and other top intelligence officials in the photo? Before the photo was released on Friday, a source told me, this is Parry writing, that Pompeo had personally briefed Trump on April 6 about CIA's belief that Syrian President Assad was likely not responsible for the lethal poison gas incident in northern Syria 2 days earlier, and thus Pompeo was excluded from the larger meeting as Trump reached a contrary decision. Parry continues, after the attack, Secretary of State Tillerson, who is not an institutional intelligence official and has little experience with the subtleties of intelligence, was the one to claim that the U.S. intelligence community assessed with, quote, a high degree of confidence that the Syrian government had dropped a poison gas bomb on civilians in the Idlib province. While Tillerson's comment meshed with official Washington's hastily formed groupthink of Assad's guilt, it is hard to believe that CIA analysts would have settled on such a firm conclusion so quickly, and this is important here, especially given the remote location of the incident, the so-called poison gas incident, and the fact that the initial information was coming from pro-rebel or al-Qaeda sources. Thus, a serious question arises whether President Trump did receive that high degree of confidence assessment from the intelligence community, or whether he shunted Pompeo aside to eliminate an obstacle to his desire to launch the April 6 rocket attack. Reason 7. As soon as the Assad gas attack was reported, the stage was set for a U.S. missile strike. No comprehensive investigation of the purported gas attack was undertaken. 8. There are, of course, precedents for U.S. wars based on false evidence. The missing WMDs in Iraq, the claims of babies being pushed out of incubators in Kuwait, to name just 2. The babies in the incubator incident was one of the pretexts for the first war against Iraq, and of course the missing WMDs in Iraq, justification for the second war against Iraq. They said, oh yeah, we know there's WMDs, but then it all turned out that nobody could find any. Reason 9, who benefits from the sarin gas story? President Assad or U.S. neocons, the U.S. military-industrial complex, Pentagon generals who want a huge increase in their military budget, Trump and his team who are suddenly praised in the press after a year of being pilloried at every turn, and ISIS, the beneficiaries of the poison gas story. And reason 10, for those who doubt that ISIS has ever used poison gas, see the New York Times, November 21, 2016, while claiming that Assad has deployed chemical attacks, the article also states that ISIS has deployed chemical weapons 52 times since 2014. And then I conclude, I'm not claiming that these 10 reasons definitely and absolutely rule out the possibility of an Assad-ordered chemical attack, but they do add up to a far more believable conclusion than the quickly assembled Assad did it story. These 10 reasons starkly point to the lack of a rational and complete investigation of the, quote, gas attack. And this lack throws a monkey wrench into Trump's claim that he was ordering the missile strike based on a high degree of confidence. End of story. Now, it's possible, many things are possible, it's possible that Trump has another card to play here or more cards, and that he does in fact plan operations to wipe out ISIS or the rest of ISIS that hasn't already been wiped out in Syria. It's possible that he's going to do something else in Syria. Whether it would be successful or not is a whole other question. Whether it would be strategically advisable is a whole other question. But yes, it's possible. And it's possible that this missile strike was a kind of prelude, and that he was getting support from the press and neocons and Washington insiders and Democrats and centrist Republicans that he could use to support the idea of a further incursion in Syria to destroy ISIS. Yes, all that is possible. Lots of things are possible. But the idea announced by the administration, hey, this is all about, we have a high level of confidence that Assad launched this poison gas attack, and that's why we must do a missile strike, because we cannot countenance this. We can't go along with this. We can't allow this to pass, because this is a heinous crime and we have to do something about it. From these 10 reasons, I believe it's obvious that that was not justified. Now, what a complete and comprehensive investigation by a truly independent body would come up with, well, we would have to have that investigation, and it doesn't seem likely that we're going to get it. And we should. We definitely should. And we're talking also about meddling on the part of intelligence agencies in America, more than meddling. These agencies, as I've talked about before on the show here, they train liars to lie. I mean, that's what they do. And since the old days of the CIA, when Allen Dulles took it over, the CIA has had the sense that they run things. They decide policy. They overthrow regimes. That's what they do. There's a long history of that. You can look all the way back to Iran in 1953, President-elect Mossadegh. You can look at Guatemala. You can look at Chile, and so on and so forth. These agencies, as much as they and their press counterparts like to say at convenient times that they are, this is an accurate intelligence assessment, how could it be otherwise? They are known liars and connivers and deceivers. So even on that basis alone, an intelligence assessment handed to Trump is not a slam dunk, not by any means. And why people at this late date would believe that it is, most people need some, I don't know what they need, but they need to have more active brain cells, for sure. Major media pick and choose. They cherry pick when to believe the intelligence agencies and when to doubt them. And so in this case, we see, well, President Trump has finally become the president. You know, that comment on CNN? He's finally presidential. Now, with this missile attack, he's proved that he's the president. Why are they saying this? Well, one reason is because Washington, closely allied with major media, is just rife and crawling with people from previous administrations who are for war. They want war. They need war. The military-industrial complex, meaning the defense contractors, for one thing, they always need war or the threat of war to justify taking billions and trillions of federal budget to produce more weapons and new weapons and so on and so forth. If peace, by some miracle, broke out on a widespread basis around the world, the military-industrial complex would wither on the vine. It's like the cancer industry. If somebody really came up with a cure for cancer and it was permitted to see the light of day and became widespread in use around the world, the trillion-dollar cancer industry devoted to treatment would wither and die on the vine. There's no question about that. There are many aspects of American society, institutions, that would encounter the same fate if things changed in the world. And from numerous reports, it appears that we were on the verge of what could have been a negotiated peace settlement in Syria because ISIS was losing badly due to Russian and also to some degree U.S. intervention there. The U.S. and Russia were beginning to act as partners against terrorism. Now, I'm not saying that Assad is some kind of angel. Obviously, he's not. It's sort of the lesser of two evils that we're talking about. And that prospect of a negotiated peace settlement now looks a lot further away at this moment than it did a week and a half ago. Well, in whose interest is it to keep the pot boiling, to keep war and the threat of war percolating? Who benefits? Who makes all the money? Who produces the weapons, and so on and so forth? It's a pretty simple straight line when you look at it. It would be a disaster if a sudden peace settlement was negotiated in Syria and Assad remained and ISIS was wiped out. It would be a disaster for neocons and the military-industrial complex, the contractors, because this could become contagious. Who knows, in the wake of that, who knows who else might sit down at the negotiating table and settle their differences, long-held differences. Who knows what Trump himself might have been able to do with the feather in his cap of helping to solve the crisis in Syria, announcing himself as the peace president. See, I told you this is what I was going to do when I became president, and this is what I'm doing. We are not going to go into these countries and be the policemen of the world. That's not what we're doing. We're looking after our own national interests here. Blah, 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 blah. Well, that outcome has been, a fork in the road apparently has been reached, and the turn went the other way. Right now, Trump is not that guy. And he is not keeping that promise. And there are those like McMaster, sort of newly crowned big shot in the circle of advisors to Trump, national security advisors, who are blabbing about a ground war in Syria and 150,000 U.S. troops on the ground. So we could speculate. We could say, well, Trump was really lying all the time. He never intended to be this kind of peace president. Or we could say, well, he's been captured by the neocons and other crazies inside Washington. We could say he appointed the wrong people to positions of power in his own administration, and they've cut him off from his previous connection with the American people who supported him and his campaign and elected him. There are many things that we could infer about the man, the president, and his character and so forth. And I've written many articles about Trump. I've praised him on 3 basic counts, and I've criticized him on other counts. Some people don't seem to be able to grasp that. You know, well, you're either completely for him or you're totally against him. Well, they have a right to that opinion, as wrong as it is. There's always going to be a more, shall we say, nuanced approach to any situation, event, or leader. Why not? And in this case, at least for now, there is no doubt that he took the wrong road. And lurking in the background, it turns out that all of the business and the screaming in the press and from politicians about how Russia hacked the election on the side of Trump and how Trump is somehow a witting or unwitting agent of Russia, and so are 100,000 websites and bloggers, you know, all of that insanity that was launched after the election. Its purpose was not simply to discredit and delegitimize Trump. That was certainly one of the motivations behind it. It was also to drive or attempt to drive a wedge between Trump and Putin. And Putin is no angel either. But it was an attempt to forestall or cancel, if possible, a joint effort, continuing joint effort by the U.S. and Russia to wipe out, defang ISIS in Syria and force a peace settlement there, which would have been very, very bad for military-industrial complex business. And that reason, of course, is not being broadcast by any major media source, but it's apparent to me that that was one of the motivations as well, even though many reporters and editors had no idea that this was one of the major secret agendas, shall we say, in all the accusations against Russia. That Russia was the eternal enemy, they always were. If any Trump official talks on the phone to any Russian whatsoever, it's an act of treason. You know, it's not diplomacy, it's an act of treason, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, trying to drive that wedge between the U.S. and Russia, who could have cooperated to end the situation in Syria. But now that other fork on the road has been taken, for the time being at least, with Trump ordering the missile strike. And the last thing that I want to point out here is that, as I said, Assad is certainly no angel, and of course neither is ISIS. And I could go into a long song and dance about how ISIS was created, funded, backed, supplied by U.S. and its allies, which is another level to the whole story. But instead, what I'll say is, if you look at 2 situations in Syria, one, ISIS is defanged and virtually neutralized, and Assad stays in power. Or Assad is thrown out, he's gone, and ISIS takes over the country. Various terrorist groups take over the country. Which would be worse? Which would be the worst of two evils? Well, if you want to know what it would be like if ISIS takes over, just take a look at Libya after the U.S. invasion and attack there, supported by Obama and Hillary Clinton. Libya is now a hellhole. It's a non-nation. It's utter chaos. It's internal warfare among various groups with civilians, many civilians caught in the crossfire. It's a total catastrophe. The same thing would be happening in Syria if ISIS took over. Okay, that's tonight's report. Lots of info there. Food for thought. Thank you very much.
Well done, John. Well done. All thought-provoking. There was something that popped up with me this week. We'll talk about this after the break. And it was sent to me, and I did not know this, that Syria, now trip on this for a second. Syria is one of the last countries in the world without a Rothschild central controlled bank.
I've seen that report.
Yes.
I haven't verified it, but if it's true, it would certainly be very interesting.
Yeah, right? Right? And I just, there's some other things that come into play with that, but that's the basis of some of the revelations that have popped up about Syria. And could that be, to get, Assad to go away and get a Rothschild central bank installed there? Now, I'm not saying, the whole conspiracy theory behind that, I think is pretty solid these days, where it just comes down to facts, right? This isn't a conspiracy theory anymore. The numbers and the facts about these banks are real. And what is real here is that Damascus doesn't have a Rothschild central controlled bank. It's just like, really? All right, let's take a break, John. John is with us all night tonight. So we will come back after the break with John. We'll be taking your phone calls. I'm going to have a long discussion with him about everything that has been going down over the last 7 days. This is Fade to Black. It's Thursday night. It's Fader Night. Open lines, 323-825-5045. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We got a full night of Jon Rappoport straight ahead. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Kat Deely, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner,
Gobekli Tepe.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I went from being able to work 14, 16 hours a day with no problem to where I could barely walk a block to the store. I went on to the phytonutrients about 6 months ago, and within a couple of months, my medical doctor had cut my prescriptions down in a little bit smaller dosage. The next time I went back a month later, I walked into the doctor's office and he says, "My gosh, what's happened to you? You don't even look like the same person." He looked at my legs and the swelling had gone down. My blood pressure was down. The venous stasis ulcers that I had had on my legs for the last 4 or 5 years because of the poor circulation were all healed, and I'm feeling far better.
The new challenge will allow you to receive 2 months of Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies free. And we'll even ship them to you free. Call now for details. Call 1-800-246-8751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code TALK.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black, Thursday night, Fader night. Welcome to everybody watching the Bunker Cam live in the studio. Welcome. It's Thursday night, Fader night. Jon Rappoport is here. We're going to be opening up the phone lines. They're open now. Got calls on hold. If you're on hold, stay right there. And, John, I want to start off with this because I was going to do this anyway, but you mentioned this in your monologue there, which was the perpetual war. Right, that the neocons or the deep state, the military-industrial complex, the stockholders, right, the perpetual war, keep the machine going. And if it does happen to end, for whatever reason, maybe Assad could capitulate. Maybe he could just throw, and seek sanctuary somewhere and just pull out. But let's just say that happens right in front of us right now. We've got the situation in North Korea. And it seems like the timing of all of this, the demonstration of the Tomahawks, the Moab drop today, the nuclear site that is primed and ready in North Korea. We've got the 5-year celebrations that are starting to kick off, and the birthday of Kim Fatty Fat's dad, whatever his name was, Kim Song-il. And you know what I mean? And and we've got a carrier group. The USS Vincent is now off the coast of the peninsula there in Korea. It seems like the perfect setup is there to keep the perpetual war going. And we've all been afraid of the North Korea one, right? But Here we go. Do you think that is it's the game is being set up right in front of us? The deck is stacked.
Yeah, I think it's been stacked for a long time. And this is one of these provocative moments when, oh man, we got 2 or 3 things going here all at the same time.
Right.
And therefore, we have to make preparations, and we have to gear up, and we have to be thinking about threats, and all of this happening at the same time to condition the American people to the idea that there's no way out of this. This is not even Trump. This is not even the Democrats. This is the way the world is. And no matter which side you're on, we have to take action. Perpetual war and threat of war.
And it's so obvious. We're 14, 15 years into Afghanistan. Tried to pull out of there a few times. Have trained their army, equipped everything, and every time it seems like we're going to have a pull down, there's another excuse for us to escalate and to go back in. And now we have the excuse of ISIS. It was the Taliban before that, and Al Qaeda, and now it's ISIS again, right? This invisible enemy. We would think that the United States, the citizens here would be ready to just throw up our arms and go, okay, enough is enough now. And I just don't get it. I really don't. How long was World War I or World War II for us? 5 years? 4 years? Right?
41 to 45.
Yep.
World War I was even shorter.
It was even shorter. And the Korean conflict, but the Vietnam War, how long were we actually involved in that? 65, 66, 67 through 74, right?
Yeah, that was longer.
A little bit longer.
The Afghanistan thing is a great example because, look, anybody with any sense in the Pentagon, and I mean, these people, what do? They war plan. They have all kinds of scenarios and contingencies and what happens if we do this and that and the other thing. It's not like they were unaware before they were ordered to go in, that they didn't know what they were in for. I mean, they had the example of the Russians trying to win a war in Afghanistan, and there's a long history of attempted conquests of Afghanistan that never worked because of the geography, the clans, the tribes, the villages, the remote areas that are really brutal in terms of weather and so forth, and just a basic resistance of the Afghan people who are used to living in conditions of severe privation, just as an ordinary, way of living for long periods of time. I mean, all of that would have legislated at the Pentagon against going in for a full-scale war. It's one thing to send in special forces and planes and so forth after pinpointing real terrorist locations. But that never panned out, really. I mean, all of a sudden it was we had to conquer the Taliban, all on the basis of 9/11. That where was that connection? Just like where was the Saddam Hussein connection with 9/11? It didn't make any sense. So it's obvious that there was this agenda that was being imposed on the Pentagon.
Right.
We have to go in there, full scale war. And now look what's happening. Taliban is stronger than they ever were before we went in.
Just like the Russians. Same deal. Let's go to the phones. Let's take our first call. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black.
Hey, Jimmy. This is Bev.
Hey, Bev.
First, I have to tell you how adorable your little Teddy is.
John doesn't know about Teddy. John, we've brought in another puppy into the household. So Teddy's been coming by the bunker a couple of nights a week to hang out, and he's a little black poodle. He's 3 months old. He's literally will fit in the palm of your hand. Wow. So he's all of like 2.5 pounds, and I think he's about full grown too. So he's 3 months old. So anyway, Bev, what do you have for John tonight? And you've got a lot of noise in your line there, but what do you have for John?
Well, my thing is, has anyone ever, the deal with Trump, did anyone on the Intel, had anyone double or triple checked it before he went and did all he did?
Yeah, it's a great question, and thank you for the phone call, Bev. I think that question right there is on everybody's mind. John, okay, John, who's checking Trump's intel?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And as I said earlier, the decision was made almost immediately after the report came in of the, quote, poison gas attack. So, oh, well, we know. Really? This was a remote area? The original intel on what happened there was coming from Al-Qaeda, ISIS, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
And so where is the real comprehensive intelligence assessment? Well, we're certainly not privy to anything about it, and we're not going to be privy to anything about it. So there is nobody checking the checkers. It's whoever has the ear of the president.
And Bev, thank you for the phone call, Bev.
Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
You have a good one.
You too, Bev.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. And this is my okay. I gotta hit you with this one. Hear Trump on the campaign trail again. Everybody, not talking politics here. We're talking about the intelligence network, the agencies, the conspiracy behind that, and who is steering Washington. That's the big question here. There's somebody that's driving this truck. And let me just say this, on the campaign trail and after he took over the White House, his lambasting and tearing up the intelligence community, attacking them, going to war with the very people that he needs to depend on for not only intelligence, but for him to base his decisions on. Now, does that corrupt the intel that he is getting now? I mean, is he going to get direct cooperation? Right?
Well, there's every reason to believe that the answer to that is no. But that's not the only reason that he doesn't get correct intel, because this has been, a plague on one president after another. Who didn't go after the intelligence agencies. They feed the president whatever they want to feed the president. And it's really only recently, as online independent media have mushroomed and spread like crazy, that people are waking up and saying, well, we're not privy to any of this,
right.
These intelligence assessments. So why should we believe what they say? Why should we just accept it at face value if you're not going to present us, the people, with any real hard evidence that we can understand? We're not just going to sit around and assume that everything is okay. Why would we? I mean, like I said, these agencies are practiced liars.
Right.
They're in that business. Covert ops. Cover stories. Deception, right? Making people think this happened when actually that happened. I mean, this is their training. So what do you expect them to do? As far as who's running the show for real, people might take a look at my one of my articles today on the Trilateral Commission,
right?
Which is one of those major deep state. I mean, if you want to know what the deep state is, look into the Trilateral Commission, because these people have been running things outside of the halls of government for a long time, and they have been making policy for America, banking policy, financial policy, military policy, all kinds of policy, political policy, since they were created in 1973. They got Jimmy Carter elected and put into the White House. Nobody knew who he was. And all of a sudden, the major media were just brimming with praise for the man.
That famous video of Hillary, right? At the opening of their new offices for the Trilateral Commission, Washington, D.C., where she goes, and it's so great to have the offices now just a couple of doors down from the White House, because now when we need to be told what to do, we just go next door, right? I'm paraphrasing here.
Yeah, it's great, sure.
But it's just like, right into the cameras, right? And now, okay. Let's explore this thought a little bit further, because when you have the public side of what Trump has been doing, calling out the NSA and the CIA and the FBI and everybody else, taking them to the mat as he has, as well as his advisors and his cabinet and Sean Spicer and what have you. But we've never really had that in a public forum before. That stuff has always gone on in the background, the infighting. We've heard about what was going on between Kissinger and Nixon and the CIA and the Trilateral, what have you. But the public side of it is showing us that maybe they're not as organized over there as we thought. Before, there's a mask on, right? There's a mask. So we don't know about it. But now it's public. Is that a good thing to take this public? Not only for us, but the rest of the world as well.
Yeah, that's a tough question, but, and look at that several ways. Could the problem of these intelligence agencies, which really are rogue, runaway agencies, I mean, all of the revelations about the National Security Agency, NSA, doing surveillance on everybody, including politicians and you name it, and the public and everybody, indicates that these agencies have been running roughshod and doing exactly what they want to do when they want to do it, including the CIA. So you have to ask, okay, could a president somehow turn that monster ship around in private, out of view, behind closed doors, maybe by making very, wise appointments and so forth? Could that really be done? Or if you're going to try to do that, do you have to just bring it out in the open, take the consequences, whatever happens, and try to wake up people to what's happening? Well, for about 5 minutes, it looked like that's what Trump was trying to do.
Right.
But now, right now at this moment, no. He took the CIA assessment exactly of what supposedly happened in Syria, and he followed it right down the line.
Right. And I think we can all assume that this kind of BS goes on behind the scenes, spy versus spy, agency versus agency, trying to get the president to side with them and their decisions and slanting the intel to get him to emotionally respond and then go back and consult his cabinet. And are the truths whole or not? Well, okay, we have to assume that kind of crap is going on. We have to. But sure. Is it better that we don't know about it in a public sense?
Because this is what I'm saying.
I want to feel good and confident.
Could the problem be solved to our benefit by a president without our knowing about it? Is it really possible that a president, very tough, smart, capable, behind closed doors, could really change the culture of these agencies? Or do you have to bring it out in the open and make it really nasty and lots of bad consequences and hope that somehow, a movement arises in the country of such power that, changes become necessary? Well, I personally don't think that any president, I'm not just talking about Trump, but any president who found himself in office and suddenly realized what these agencies are doing could just maneuver somehow in private and change the whole character of the agencies. I find that very hard to believe. It seems like it's just another one of these situations where the truth has to come out in the open, and it has to be sustained for a long time. I'll give you an example. The FDA. For the longest period of time, people just never questioned the FDA. They didn't even know what the FDA did. Well, it's something to do with, approving drugs, medical drugs and whatever. And starting, maybe sometime in the 1980s, all of a sudden, lots of reporters, and I was one of them, began to expose what was happening with the FDA out in the open, that they were certifying drugs for use that were killing people on a routine basis in large numbers. I've talked about this many times on the show here. And gradually, something in the culture began to change. Now, it hasn't changed enough, because these agencies just don't go away. But at least there's a widespread awareness now about the CDC, the FDA. But when it comes to the CIA and the NSA and other intelligence agencies, it's not nearly as, the outcry is not nearly as strong.
It's not. It's not.
It isn't.
No,
They're
it's not.
much more entrenched. They think they own everything. They think, as I've written, the CIA thinks that it is the president of the United States. You and I talked about this off the air.
Yes.
That's how they see themselves. Trump? Are you kidding? We're the president.
Right. And we always talk about the NSA and we talk about the CIA and the FBI. But there are other agencies out there that are nearly as big, if not big. Look at the NRO. A crazy, powerful, strong, black, budgeted, secret. You don't know nothing about the NRO. Nobody ever talks about it. And you talk about the Air Force Office of Investigations and what they do over there. The Navy Intelligence Wing has been there since the day that this country was founded. Talk about entrenched, right?
Yeah. The DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency. There are about, I think, 17 different really powerful intelligence agencies. And by the way, people out there listening, who are thinking about things like UFOs, for example, or things like GMOs and all of this feeds back into various federal agencies who put the clamps on the truth. They don't want to, and NASA,
right.
They don't want to reveal anything that they don't want to reveal. They just keep it tight to their vest and they say, we rule this territory. And if we want to let you know something, we will. And if we want to lie to you, we'll do that too.
Check this out. I don't know if you saw this press release, but today, Mike Pompeo, we've been talking about him all night, so let's take another crack at him, right? Today, in his first speech since taking over the CIA, just flew a mission and dropped a bomb all over WikiLeaks today and Julian Assange, calling WikiLeaks a non-state hostile intelligence service that is often abetted by state actors like Russia. This is Mike Pompeo in a public speech. He went on. He was speaking today at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, and he called Assange a fraud and someone with no moral compass. I'm quoting here with air quotes. And a narcissist who has created nothing of value, end quote. He also went on to say that Assange and Edward Snowden only seek to use that information to make a name for themselves, and that they care nothing about the lives that they put at risk or the damage that they cause to national security, end quote. Quoting him. And asked why he would focus on WikiLeaks rather than other issues, Pompeo said that he felt it was vital to inform the American people about the threat that they pose. Now, last week, WikiLeaks released another batch of Vault 7, right? Another 27 documents that about the Grasshopper framework. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that one.
Okay, check this out, because it's all been about Apple so far, right, and Android. Mm-hmm. The Grasshopper framework is software tools used by the CIA to infiltrate Microsoft's Windows platform.
Great.
And Pompeo wants to come out and say this about Assange. And I find that really interesting. Again, taking this public. Is that, I don't know. There's some things about Pompeo that I thought maybe he would go in and straighten out the CIA. Maybe he's that guy to finally go out and do that and right the ship. And then this comes out and he's doing this in public. The CIA, we're not supposed to know anything about the CIA, right?
Yeah, he's now got a platform.
Right.
And then you have to say, some people don't want to say it. Like, avid Trump supporters. I mean, here's Trump during the campaign, and he's praising WikiLeaks to the sky.
Yep.
Because they're releasing truthful emails about the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton and this and that, and the plot to destroy Bernie Sanders and all of this kind of thing, terrific, hooray, wonderful. And now the guy that he's appointed to head the CIA is turning around and basically saying that, WikiLeaks is some kind of terrorist group and Julian Assange, should be tried and convicted and whatever, given a life sentence. I mean, it's just amazing.
It is amazing.
You look around and you say, wow, what's Trump's game?
Or who is Trump's game? That's the other question.
Yeah, that's another way to look at it. Sure. Exactly. He appoints a guy that turns around and says directly the opposite of what Trump, was saying. And the same thing seems to be happening with Russia, because you've got Rex Tillerson, who's now his Secretary of State, making all kinds of negative comments about Russia. When Trump was saying during the campaign and right after the election, hey, if we can cooperate with Russia, that's a good thing. Why is that a bad thing? I don't even know the guy, Putin, but let's sit down and talk and see what we can work out. Certainly, we can help each other in Syria to destroy ISIS and so forth. And for 5 minutes, it looked like, something sane might happen.
Right.
They sit down, they have a conversation. They say, okay, let's do this, do that. Trump's a sharp guy. Let's make a deal. We can, all of a sudden, down the toilet. And he's got his own Secretary of State talk about coming out in the open. I mean, just pretty much lowering the boom on Russia.
And it all
it's
happened.
Amazing.
Yeah, all of these. Now, it's not about, for me, and we got to hit a break here in about 60 seconds. So just let me say this to the audience, and I'm going to speak probably for John here too. But I hope John and I start to argue, but that'll be nice and fun too. But is this... It's not about Trump making about faces and calling out Trump for changing his mind and flip-flopping. It's not about that. It's the conspiracy behind, who is the team behind him that is forcing the changes of policy, the changes of statements, the changes of commitments and campaign promises, and the status of the world in the United States and America first. When all of the sudden, and it didn't take very long, it's like the day after he was in the Oval Office, that day after the inauguration, things started to change. Where is that influence coming from? Because we all assume Trump was stronger than that, and he was his own man. That is the issue. That's the issue. All right, it's Fader Night. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Jon Rappoport here for the duration, taking your phone calls, 323-825-5045. More with John right after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hey there. Quick question for you. Would you be okay with more energy, more endurance, thicker, healthier hair, a better mood, reduced appearance of wrinkles, improved sleep, improved blood pressure and cholesterol profiles, improved vision, improved memory? Okay then. Well now, have you heard of Nature's Youth RSF? It's from the anti-aging experts at nature'syouth.com. Nature'syouth.com. See, at Nature's Youth, they understand exactly what it means to provide top quality health products. And Nature's Youth customers not only improve their health, they know they're also providing their body with the right nourishment to maintain that peak performance and fight the aging process. If health, wellness, and nutrition are what you desire, choose Nature's Youth RSF. I did. You see, you're going to get older. It's just up to you how you feel when you get there. Get started today. Nature's Youth RSF. Simple to use, simple to order. Go to nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com.
I was introduced to this remarkable product, Balance of Nature Fruits and Veggies, and to say it's amazing is an understatement. Balance of Nature provides the nutrients of 9 to 11 servings of 31 different whole ripened fruits and veggies per day, and the cost to the consumer for 9 to 11 servings is about 22 cents per serving, as opposed to over $1 in the store. Balance of Nature Fruits and Veggies helps boost the immune system by over 720%, and they also provide a health coach for you at no charge to guide you with any questions you may have. And you can also visit their website for testimonials on balanceofnature.com. So take steps to give yourself better overall health and call them now, toll free, at 800-246-8751. That's 800-246-8751, or go to balanceofnature.com right now. Make sure to let them know you heard it here by using promo code TALK for a special discount. That's balanceofnature.com and use promo code TALK.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Here we go, John. Welcome back. Fade to Black, Fader Night. Tonight, Jon Rappoport is with us all night long. 323-825-5045. If you're on hold, stay right there. We'll get to you in just a second. And right before the break, we were talking about central banks. And, John, I just sent you an article. I think you just got it, right?
No, but
it's there.
I'm not okay.
Okay, don't worry about it. Just check your Skype. But in the year 2000, there were 7 countries without a Rothschild-owned or controlled bank. Are you ready? Afghanistan, Iraq, Sudan, Libya, Cuba, North Korea, and Iran. And now Syria is not on this list, right? But isn't that an interesting list? But let me take this a step further here, and I'm going to address this Syria question. Then in 2003, the list was down to 5: Sudan, Libya, Cuba, North Korea, and Iran. In 2011, it's down to Cuba, North Korea, and Iran. Now, the complete list of banks controlled or owned by the Rothschild family, and do you know what is not on this list of 175? Syria. Syria is not here as listed with a Rothschild-controlled bank. So I just find that right there utterly fascinating. When it comes down to this kind of stuff, the Rothschilds dictating once again. And look, I'm not saying it's all about the Rothschilds, but they control the media, they control the money, and they have funded both sides of every war since the American Revolution.
Let me just put a vector in here. Look at the number of Goldman Sachs people that Trump has surrounded himself with. As soon as this started happening, my take on this was, Trump is not an idiot. So he looks at the landscape and he says, okay, one thing we need is a rising stock market. Because people take that as a sign of the financial health or illness of the country. We can't have a decimated stock market, which by manipulation is very easy to do. Just hopefully trust me on that. People who are insiders can take the stock market in any direction they want to. So let's just imagine this scenario. He sits down with a couple of people from Goldman Sachs, very high up, and he says, Okay, look, I understand your power. You understand that I'm the president. What do we got here? What can we do? How can we help each other? You know that I want to bring jobs back to America. That's one of my, prime directives. I want a healthy stock market. And the guys from Goldman Sachs says, well, we can help you there. We're the bankers. We're the investment bankers. We control a lot of what happens in markets, as I'm sure you understand. And we can do some good things for you there. But, of course, in return, we want certain things. And who knows what those things are. But now you could be talking about the Rockefeller, Rothschild, globalist agenda, which I've described in detail on past shows here. And part of that agenda is enough chaos, enough war, enough destabilization so that those folks can move in behind that, establish financial control of a country, political control, all kinds of control. And here we see what looks like flip-flopping on the part of the president. But it could come down to that kind of deal-making because he realizes this is not the kind of landscape where you can just, climb on a bulldozer and cut a wide road right down the middle and do whatever you want to do. There are forces arrayed against you, considerable forces. You've got to make some kind of rapprochement with some of these people.
I'm looking here now. I've just got a recent article off of RT, and it says that the Syrian central bank is central and state controlled and is not controlled by the Rothschilds. It serves the Syrian people. It does not, and I'm just reading it right here, straight off. Syria's central bank is state-owned and controlled. In other words, it manages its own national currency so that it serves the Syrian people and not the Rothschild-controlled global bankers operating from their New York, London, Frankfurt, Tel Aviv, Basel, and Paris hideouts. That's RT. And, RT being a Soviet propaganda machine that I would assume, since they're propping up the Syrian government, that this is a Kremlin-sanctioned article. I'll just say it out loud.
Yeah, I would say so. I know a little bit about RT and a little bit more about Sputnik News, and which used to be, I think it was called TASS,
right,
in the old days. Sure, they are organs of media for the Russian government, but nevertheless, what you're talking about here is financial control of a country. The ability, if you control the central bank, you can manipulate currency, you can print endless amounts of money, you can put a country into as much debt as you want. You run the show because the show runs on money.
And one country after another, I went and looked at, I'll continue this thought after the break, but Ecuador at one point was self-sufficient, done, right? And they get involved with the World Bank. And the next thing you know, they went from, in the 50s and 60s, just flush and cool and stable, to now completely in debt up to its eyeballs. And that's what you do to control a country. It's just get them completely in debt. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. You're live.
Hello.
Yes.
Hey, Jimmy. This is Nathan.
Hey, Nathan. How are you? Say hi to John.
Hi, John.
Hey, Nathan.
Basically, what I wanted to say was, it seems apparent to me that all of these countries have the same problem in that they're all mirror images of what they're all mirror images of each other. They all have this need to control the reality of the people that live there. And I think people are doing that to us now. And we're not, some people are waking up to that fact, but not at a fast enough pace. There's so many people in the world that don't realize that, you know, even the fabric of reality is probably manipulated by our own thoughts. So,
yeah, bingo, Nathan. Spot on the money. And with that, thank you for the phone call, Nathan. This is what's trippy, John. I want your thoughts on this. We have had no problem. Russia too, okay, and China. It's not just the United States and Spain and Portugal and the United Kingdom and on and on and on. But certainly in the modern sense, we have no problems in manipulating every single government that we can get involved in, and certainly, Iraq and Libya, Afghanistan, all of that just comes to mind. But we have the entire southern hemisphere here that is under our control, and we prop up and interfere and throw out anything that we don't like, right? But suddenly, this cry about the Russians possibly interfering with our elections, isn't that calling a spade a spade? What are we upset about? We've been doing it, and I just don't understand why Washington is acting surprised when this is our method of operation ourselves.
Well, I think it's fabricated. I don't think this is a genuine sentiment of surprise and shock. It's just an act, basically. And the media are heading up the act. Oh my goodness, look at this. We had no idea. This is horrible, and so forth, as if we are the innocent ones. We've never done this. We don't know anything about manipulating regimes or interfering in elections or overthrowing dictators and putting other dictators there under the name of bringing democracy. Oh, we would never do anything like that. It's all an affect. It's all phony. And the caller, now you're really in my wheelhouse with this, creating reality for everybody else. Absolutely right. Creating reality in our thoughts so that still there are millions and millions and millions of Americans who believe that, the United States has never done anything wrong, and that if we suddenly find out that Russia has tried to meddle in our affairs, it's just a titanic shock and surprise. It's ridiculous. It's completely absurd. But that's the reality that is being painted. Up until the campaign for the president started, did you see anything in the press that was calling out Russia as our eternal enemy?
Nope.
Of course not.
Nope.
All of a sudden, it's as if, wow, we've always known this, and now we see more evidence of it. And so this is all an act. This is creating a movie of reality for the mind that people are supposed to sit there and watch and agree to and nod their heads and say, wow, this is unbelievable. And I know people, and I'm sure you do too, and people out there, people that I would consider intelligent, who are, after the election were suddenly buying into all of this without any thought, investigation, research. They were just taking it off the top, ripping it off the news wire and saying, my God. Well, this is mind control. That's what we're dealing with here.
When it comes to again, going back to the Rothschilds, but the news wires that we constantly refer to, well, there's only two, and one owns the other anyway. So really there's only one, and that is Reuters. And Reuters is owned by a bunch of shell corporations, but by the Rothschilds. So now the ability to actually, when we talk about 1984, right, with George Orwell, and the ability to put the spin on anything that you want the spin on, and every single news source around the world, and it doesn't matter if it's China, Russia, or the United States, are picking up the Reuters feed, and then you are now dictating the news. So you're controlling that as well. And talk about the illusion, right? But nobody knows. Nobody cares. This was never a concern when this actually went down, but it did. We used to have independent news wires, independent, journalists on the street, on the beat, and that's not the case now. Everything is just an electronic news feed from Reuters, and you take it and you distribute it, and that's it.
Let me give you an example. When I was writing my first book, AIDS Inc., back in 1987, I was starting to look into vaccines really for the first time in depth. So among all the other sources and information that I uncovered, there was a newspaper in Rochester, New York, and I think it was called the Rochester Chronicle. And a reporter, I believe her name was Jennifer Hyman, wrote a series on vaccine damage. Not just one article, a series. This was a mainstream newspaper. And she took apart the diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus vaccine and exposed incredible damage that it was doing in a series of articles. Now, that today would never be possible. That's just an example of something. You couldn't do that in a mainstream press outlet today. It's just like going, driving a golf cart into a 50-foot thick steel wall. You just wouldn't get through. You can't do it. So there were times earlier when, like you say, there were more independent outlets. United Press International, which was a wire service, still I think exists, kind of hobbles along. They were mainstream, but once in a while you would see them defecting from the consensus on a significant story. That's gone. I mean, they're gone. They're not even on the radar anymore. So that's right. And the Associated Press, which is the other giant news service for the world, if you investigate its foundation, how it's built, it is really nothing more than a nonprofit created, funded, backed by the major networks and the major newspaper outlets. So they create the Associated Press, and then the Associated Press reporters write all kinds of articles, and then these same mainstream outlets just simply run those articles. It's just a loop.
And everything, all of the money from the major networks, it all goes back to one source, and you just follow the money and go up. And it's a bizarre situation. I have seen, and I know you've done it too. It's a hilarious thing. I don't know who's got the time to do this. But looking at the breaking news that will come out of D.C., announced by in the White House press room, right? And then suddenly that same exact news headline and its details is read verbatim by every single independent television station across the country, right? With nothing, no creativity. And it could be whatever, John. Make something up. I do this all the time. Make something up. Cheddar cheese will make you live to 200 years old. Right? Okay, that's
researchers say.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And then it goes global. Like they wrote the story and they created the story, and this is like this break. It is really, really funny. It's all controlled. Whatever it is that they want. And again, that's what goes back to exactly what this show started off on today, which is the NSA and the CIA and Rothschild-funded wars and the perpetual machine. All of this can't happen unless you don't get the narrative out there to steer the public emotionally in the direction you need them to go in to support your money-grubbing machine. And it all goes full circle.
And we see, which we started off at the top talking about, Trump orders the missile strike. And then all of a sudden, the echo chamber begins. Now he's on track. Now he did the right thing. Now he's acting like a real president. Now he's presidential. And you even get a few Democrats who have been saying nothing but, spewing nothing but hate against Trump, all of a sudden saying, well, he finally did a really good thing and we have to acknowledge it, and et cetera, et cetera. It's like, as you say, suddenly this bush or tree flowers in a few minutes, everywhere. The story is the same because the agenda is, in this case, for war. So we got the president to do what we wanted him to do, and now we're going to shower praise on him, and this will be more or less unanimous in the mainstream press. It's just, you say, well, that's a miracle. No, it's not. It's just, imagine that you've got a few painters on ladders in a giant wall, and they're painting a mural. And that mural is called reality, and everybody's looking at it and thinking this is the only reality. Well, that's called the news.
With the point that you brought up about the babies, right, in the sarin gas attack. Well, we don't know if it was sarin, but the gas attack. Well, we don't know if there was a gas attack, but the incident that was purported to have happened. And it may very well have, and children may have died, and that's a bad thing. And it's not the first time where they have used people, killing people for a false flag. But what I find interesting is that false flag, that Putin used those words yesterday, by the way. Putin used the words false flag, which freaked me out. To have a head of state, right, use those words. Now we've got an issue here. But there is a lot of actors here that could have used that false flag for their own ends, right? Not just drawing this into a war in Syria, but there's a lot of different people that would want to have done that false flag, right? It's not just, it could have been Russia. It could have been Russia. It could have been ISIS. It could have been Assad himself. Maybe he did it as a false flag to point the fingers at ISIS. It could be, there are so many actors that could have used that, and it wouldn't have been just us, right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure, I understand. Yeah, well, this gets down to, and as a reporter, I try to tell people, when I started going down the rabbit hole, which is basically maybe 30 years ago, I very quickly came up onto this notion of probabilities. Because if you're not privy to the smoking guns in every story that you investigate, when you really dig in, and the deeper you go, the more you see this, if you can't find the exact moment of a decision, a vital decision, and who made it and where he was and all of that, you're now dealing in probabilities. So you have to accept that. You can't, work your way around that. It's the same with any deep issue. You go down far enough and eventually you recognize and you accept, okay, I've got to establish the highest probability that I can, given the amount of information that I can get, and I'm going to try to get as much as I can, but there are certain limits. I can't walk into certain offices and open file cabinets and start looking in file folders that are top secret just because I feel like it. So I would say that this is one of those incidents, the so-called gas attack. And so when I wrote the article that I read out tonight, I was keenly aware, okay, I'm dealing with probabilities here, and I'm looking at who benefits, who doesn't seem to benefit, counter evidence, the fact that no comprehensive investigation was done and so forth, and therefore, what's my conclusion?
Right.
But at the same time, as you say, I recognize, hey, there could be 10 or 15 reasons why different players would want to use this false flag. Sure, absolutely.
And the fact that there was no time for an investigation, that we don't have any boots on the ground there, taking that away from everything, the attack itself was supposed to take out that airstrip. The next day, the airstrip is flying planes again.
Back in business.
Right? Back in business.
We had a small explosion at JFK, but the flights are back on schedule.
Right. And they were. I saw the list. Right, they took out the fuel depots. They took out 6 MiG planes. They took out the bunkers, the barracks, the helicopters. Right, it sounded 59 Tomahawks. Right, it sounded pretty. It should have been a crater. Right, and then we see nothing hit the runways. All of the protective what do you call it, where you put the planes, what's the
hangars?
Yeah, well, what's the word for it, the bomb proof, right? Well, they were obviously bomb proof because they had planes in them still. And I what happened to the pinpointing, flying cruise missiles through a window, right, if they had to? Mm-hmm. Well, they missed their targets. Half of them didn't explode. We spent $100 million to do this, and it achieved nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. What did that do to Assad? I don't think it did anything.
No. He's just sitting there thinking, well, that wasn't much of anything.
No. If that's the best that you can do, well, I'm going to stay.
I'm in good shape.
Right. And Putin's got my back anyway. So what say you, United States?
Yeah. And this is another thing that was ignored in the mainstream press, because they had to praise Trump for the attack and so forth. They couldn't say, well, this was a pretty crazy version of an attack, because look at the photos. The runways are still good. As you say, 59 Tomahawk missiles. Wow. This should have turned this into powder.
Right. Right, it should have, and this is what it did do for the United States, and it had nothing to do with Syria. The neocons, the saber rattlers, right? They all went, okay, I guess this Trump guy is all right.
Yep,
that's what right. That's who won. If you think about it,
they were popping corks on champagne.
Oh, definitely were.
We're back in business again. Lobbyists for the defense contractors.
Yeah, man.
People who are wanting the people at the Pentagon that need more money all the time when they can't account for whatever it is, $6 trillion or more that they don't know where it went. Over the years, and there's no, they have something like, I don't know, I once wrote something about this, 75 different accounting systems at the Pentagon, and they don't all merge, and they're, it's just a crazy quilt of record keeping.
And on top of that,
unaccountable amounts of money.
Right, and we have to take a break right here, but on top of that, the Pentagon's never been audited. Not even one time. This is Fade to Black, our guest tonight. Well, it's Fader Night. Jon Rappoport. More with John when we come back. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Do you know what's in your body soap? Well, I didn't know the answer until about 5 years ago when I looked at the label of my soap and was shocked to see all the chemicals. For my entire life, I had been assaulting the largest organ of my body, my skin, and to think my children were using it too. Well, a lot has changed since then. Today, my family and I operate Stone City Farms, where we make and sell all-natural goat milk soap using fresh goat milk from goats we raise on our farm. Our mission at Stone City Farm is to produce high-quality, all-natural goat milk soap for people who want a fresh, unrefined, natural product. At Stone City Farms, we offer scented and unscented soaps and a signature line of gift sets customizable to your needs. To see what our customers are saying, go to StoneCityFarm.com. Use the code NATURAL for a 20% discount. That's StoneCityFarm.com, code NATURAL for 20% off your order. You never know what could be hiding in your soap.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Would you like relief from muscle pain, headaches, and discomfort to sleep better, have more energy during the day, and just feel naturally amazing? Fibromalic can help. Its blend of malic acid and magnesium can provide pain relief and comfort for those who experience fibromyalgia. It helps your body absorb more oxygen, and it works quickly for a significant reduction in pain within 48 hours, all without a prescription. Ask for Fibromalic at health and vitamin shops or shop fibromalic.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. Fader Night, 323-825-5045. Sitting here with Jon Rappoport. Just having a really good back and forth here. 323-825-5045. If you want to jump in on the action. John, check this out. This was released today. I don't know if you caught this. But talking about the conspiracy, right? And this goes right back to Colin Powell. Now listen to this. British and other European intelligence agencies intercepted communications between associates of Donald Trump and Russian officials and other Russian individuals during the campaign and passed on those communications to their U.S. counterparts. According to the U.S. congressional, law enforcement, United States, and European intelligence sources, the communications were captured during routine surveillance of Russian officials and other Russians known to Western intelligence. The European intelligence agencies detected multiple communications over several months between the Trump associates and the Russian individuals and passed that on to the intelligence in the U.S. The United States and Britain are part of the so-called Five Eyes Agreement, along with Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, which calls upon open sharing among member nations of a broad range of intelligence. Now, does that just ring you right back to Colin Powell and the United Nations and the vial, right? That, you know, we have this information. We have it, but they're not providing this information.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is over and over again. Okay, let's see it. Let's see the evidence. Just lay it out there. And let's assess it. Let's have independent people assess it. You heard the top of the show when I read out the statement of the MIT professor who was talking about the crushed cylinder, supposedly a sarin cylinder. You know, this was a guy who's making an independent assessment. I mean, he's not undertaking a comprehensive investigation because he can't, because he doesn't have enough information. But he's looking at photos and he's saying, wow, look at this. The cylinder is crushed from above. Now, this supposedly was dropped from a plane that Assad ordered to spray this poison gas from. But why is the top of it crushed as it's lying in a little crater? How come? How does that happen? this is the kind of perception you want. Okay, so let's get the details here. Just like Colin Powell standing up in front of the UN and saying we have indisputable evidence about yellow cake, uranium in Nigeria and this and that and Hussein and developing weapons of mass destruction, and everybody's buying in, and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, this is not real information. This is not an intelligence assessment. This is the agenda of Rumsfeld, Cheney, other neocons, and so on and so forth. Yep, it's the same deal. Here's the story, folks. Generality, this agency, that agency, we shared this, and here's our conclusion. Well, show us. Prove it.
That letter, when anybody ever asks me about false flags or, how can this be true? They would never do this. And I'm just reminded of that letter that Tony Blair was waving around, right? That document that the British intercepted, and it was Saddam ordering yellow cake uranium from South Africa or some country or whatever, and that this was the proof. And it turned out to be a fraudulent doc created by the CIA, right? But nobody wants to talk about that.
No. Absolutely not. Because it overturns too many apple carts, because one question leads to another. Well, if they did that, if they were fraudulent there, then where else were they fraudulent? But fortunately, the people who listen to Fade to Black understand this, because everybody who's sitting out there has, as I've mentioned many times, your favorite story that proves that the people in charge are lying. And that the mainstream account of something that you're intensely interested in, whatever that is false. And it's been presented as true. Well, you've awakened. There are millions and untold numbers of other people who are still laboring under delusion. They would never do this. That couldn't have happened. And you present them with evidence, and they refuse to look at it because subconsciously they know that if they accept it, then they're going to have to start asking other questions about other frauds, and their world will be turned upside down.
And there's one other aspect to all of this, and it's such a broad stroke of the pen here. But it's really weird how things can go full circle when you're trying to not only fake a story, but then cover your tracks on the fake story with something else that could be fake or real or based a little bit in reality. And it's this. We have Snowden. Snowden does this big reveal through WikiLeaks on the NSA and their ability to snoop on anybody with the click of a mouse. And when they focus in on an individual, literally with a couple of clicks, that can spread out to thousands of people just off of one individual because of the spider web that happens off of one person, because that they have friends in their network. Now, so we have that. And then we have the different hacks that have been coming in from around the world. North Korea with Sony. I'm just pulling something out, right? Or the DNC. Or pick a hack, and you have that. And then we have now the revelations coming out of WikiLeaks again that all of those hacks can be masked to point the finger at the perp. Right? It's done in the United States, but we're making it look like Russia. Or it's done out of Israel, and we're making it look like the United States. And now we have the ability to lie on the lie. Right? You know what I mean?
Sure.
It is the craziest. And for the audience and for the people that are listening to this really closely, Their head must be spinning. I thought we had the ability to find out through an IP address who is actually doing this and where the malware is coming from and how the hack happened. Now you're saying that we don't know where the hack happened because the hackers have the ability to hack from another location. So the hack didn't really come from there. The hack came from here. Or it came from 3 different locations and it was masked 3 times. So now we don't really know. And you're accusing this of this. But now they have the excuse to say it wasn't us because you had the ability to do whatever. It's like crazy. Right?
Yes, completely. Yeah, because one of the, in the Vault 7 release of the CIA documents, it was indicated that the CIA and other agencies have the ability to lay down false trails. In other words, they have gained equipment and knowledge from other countries, other intelligence agencies, other governments, as to how those government players would hack. And so they can fabricate it to make it look like a hack came from Russia, for example, when it really didn't, or from Israel, or when it didn't, or from the U.S. when it was really Israel, or whatever. They can do that. So now you've got lies piling upon lies. This is what I meant when I said these intelligence agencies are trained to lie and deceive. That's what they do. So think of the biggest liar you've ever known and imagine that person tells a bunch of other people a story and they buy it. And you're standing there saying, don't you understand? This guy is the biggest liar in the world. And they don't get it. They don't get it. Well, that's kind of the situation that any real investigator is in. You get into talk about the swamp. I mean, there's a swamp of data, of information, and you are dealing with probabilities, various degrees of probability. And people have to get used to that. It's not a... Sometimes you can nail the smoking gun, and there it is. But sometimes, in fact, most of the time, you can't get down that far because the people who are mounting a covert op have multiple ways of concealing that fact and shifting the blame to other people. So now you've got to begin to make inferences. I mean, this is how actual investigations are done most of the time. You build the best circumstantial case you can. And people have to get used to that. I mean, this is sort of, the PhD level of critical thinking and analysis that is never taught in any public institutions, but this is the way it's done.
As we get ready for North Korea to crank up another nuclear test, and reports right now, John, as you know, is everything is ready to go, right? The site is cleared, it's done. And they're getting ready to flip that switch. And we've got the Carl Vinson Carrier Group right there on the peninsula. Today, the Trump administration announced that they are weighing in on their options with additional sanctions, as if there wasn't enough on North Korea, right? Right. If they continue to fire missiles or conduct this 6th nuclear test. And I can feel pretty confident that it's going to happen probably tonight or tomorrow because of all the celebrations that are going on there, and they have prepped, unless China steps in and stops it, but I just don't see that. But they announced today, Trump, amongst the sanctions that are under consideration, listen to this, a total oil embargo against North Korea, a total ban on North Korea's national airline, Air Koryo, and a crackdown on companies and individuals who do businesses with North Korea or lend financial support for its nuclear program. So, in other words, complete isolation of North Korea. Mm-hmm. And I would have thought that they were already feeling all of that. But now, shutting down the airline, no more oil, and a complete financial crackdown. The tensions on that peninsula right now, I could not imagine. Could you imagine living in Seoul, Korea, right now, in South Korea?
Yeah. Or in North Korea.
Yeah.
I mean, they cleared out in North Korea one city, evacuated something like 600,000 people.
Well, there was the possibility of that. That's Pyongyang, and they were talking about that yesterday. Now, it was never really cleared through any official vetting, right? The announcement came last night, but the North Korean people know nothing. They know nothing. They absolutely know nothing about what is going on. They don't have a clue. The only ones that do are the elite that's in power. But this anniversary that is getting ready to kick off, they're going to have the military parade. The weapons are going to be, down through the square. And this is all going to happen. And I just can't see this nuclear test not happening. And then
I mean, it seems like it will, unless it turns out to be a dud. There's always that possibility. Listen, if 59 missiles can fail to destroy one small runway, then a nuclear test could fail. That's always a possibility. Well, our guys thought we had the thing, and we set it off, and nothing happened.
Do you think? Yeah,
that's always possible.
Yeah, it is. It is, and the timing of those 59 Tomahawks, and of course the bomb drop today in Afghanistan. Do you think that is a clear message to North Korea? Do you think that is beyond coincidence? I
do. Yeah, I think it's an absolute message. No question about it. It's sort of a symbolic in a way, but, especially that giant bomb that they dropped on Afghanistan, I think these are meant as clear warnings that, Nixon once remarked that it was a good idea if other governments thought that he was a little bit insane.
Right.
Because then they would be afraid of him, because then he would be unpredictable. You don't know how far he would go. Well, Trump seems to be living up to that so far.
Yeah, and this is it's the illusion, it's the illusion that bothers me so much. It's this illusion that things are just not what they seem. And I say it all the time. But right now we have got the world in flux, and with an agenda behind it that is driving it. Because if the real agenda on the front, all of this should be able to be controlled and done. Syria should have been finished. ISIS should have been done. Right? Should have been done. Libya should, none of this. North Korea. Why isn't China just going in, slapping Kim Fatty Fat around and stopping their nuclear program, and then feeding the country with food and with money and profit? But no, none of this is happening. It's like I'm taking crazy pills, and so is the rest of the world. It shouldn't go this way, but yet we allow it to go this way, and I just don't get it, John. I don't get it.
Well, the whole situation has really been out of control for a long time. I think it's only recently, or relatively recently, that more and more people are waking up to the insanity of all of this and the illusion piled on illusion. But it's been going on, actually, silently, you might say, relatively, for a long, long time, that things have been going in a destructive direction. And as you say, there are numerous solutions to the problem. It's the picture that's being painted is, look, there is no way to solve this. These are age-old conflicts, they'll say, and this tribe against tribe, and we can't get in there, and nothing can work, and then people begin to get the idea. Well, okay, I guess we just have to trust our leaders who are doing the best they can, because it's very hard to turn things around. When in fact, it is not that hard if you want to actually solve the problems. But obviously, that's not the agenda. The agenda is to keep the pot boiling. The agenda is more conflict, more war, because this suits people who are running the show. This is what they want. They benefit in numerous ways from this, and they are continuing to benefit. And for people who recently just awakened to all of this, they can become depressed about it. But, I've been aware of this myself for a long, long, long time. And all I can say is the more people that wake up, the better. The more people that wake up, the better.
When we talk about solutions, and the solutions are very, very, very simple. The amount of money that has swung to the top 0.1%, that the amount of money that is sitting liquid is insane. We are talking about tens of trillions of dollars. And taking that money and fixing, we've heard this story over and over and over again, but we've never had a situation where so few have so much and the rest of us have so little, right? It's to the extreme now. And the shaving of just a small amount of that money would clothe and feed and heat and propel every single person on this planet. Every single one. Everything could be happy and hunky-dory, but we don't do it. It just doesn't make any sense. We've progressed. John, we've progressed so much with technology and food and production and how to build the correct house and housing and air conditioning and heating and just everything is just so right in the world, but we don't go and fix things. And we could stop all wars right now. There's enough excess money where nobody would have to work for 10 or 20 years on the entire planet, right? On the entire planet. But we don't do it. It's just, right. It's insanity, isn't it?
A long time ago, people began talking about this. They began saying exactly what you just said. And my research tells me that at that point, because that point was reached, I'm going to say, let's pin it at 1940. That's when Bucky Fuller began writing in earnest about, look, there's enough to go around, especially with our innovative technology.
Right.
We can do all this. And at that point, the major financial players we've been talking about and the major corporations, they actually had a choice. They could go down that road that you just described, or they could continue to do what they had been doing, which was completely destructive. And they chose the second path. That was a conscious choice. And it's been the same choice ever since then. Ever since. And not only could they have done it, these corporations, not only could they do it now, but they could continue to make profit. In fact, more profit than they were making before. I mean, when you consider innovations in, say, decontaminating unsanitary water supplies, building cheap housing, providing the essentials of survival to every person on the planet, you don't have to appoint, a Rockefeller or a Rothschild to do that, and nor should you, or any government. The corporations themselves could turn their production lines into that kind of activity and actually make more money than they're making now.
That's right.
That's, to me, the incredible insanity of this whole thing. That they don't do this. They don't see it. They don't want to see it. They're locked. They talk about mind control. They are under an incredible series of layers of mind control. That they can't see this, that they don't even know that it would be to their own personal benefit to do this. They just don't get it. They can't see it. They're locked in to the idea of greed, dominance, warfare, military conquest model. That's what their minds are composed of.
I have values, right? And part of it comes from, being a parent. But I've always felt this way. I don't understand the twisted mind that sits around a boardroom table talking to, the board members going, okay, we need to make more tank ammunition.
Right.
We need to make more bombs. We're not getting orders in. And the only way that's going to happen is if we have to go out and drop some and kill some people to replace the inventory. Yeah. Right. Let's go. That's a real discussion. That's a real discussion.
How are we going to, how are we going to continue to make munitions? Let me see if I can tell a really quick story in a very short amount of time.
Sure.
One of my first assignments for LA Weekly when I began as a reporter in 1982, I interviewed a guy named Bill Perry, who was the PR chief for Lawrence Livermore Labs up around Berkeley, where they design nuclear weapons, and they have a lot of physicists and stuff working there.
Right.
This was the best job he ever had. He worked his way up the PR ladder. And, he just was in clover. He could call any reporter. He could call any news outlet. He could put on a press conference anytime he wanted. I mean, he reached the top of his profession. And what turned him around and made him quit was one day he's walking by a physicist who's sitting there clucking and kind of sullen and whatever. And Bill says, "What's the matter?" And the guy says, "We just need more money, more budget money," and so forth. And Bill said, "What are you talking about? We already have the capability of blowing up the planet 4 or 5 times. Why do you need more money?" And the guy looked down at his work and he said, "You don't understand, Bill. This is a physics and mathematical problem that we're working on here." And Bill thought, wow, I got to get out of here, man.
Wow,
I
that's
got to
heavy.
get out of here.
That is heavy.
Yeah, that was one of the first stories I ever wrote as a reporter, and that kind of turned me around. Like, yeah, okay, here we go into the insanity.
I remember, and I want to thank you before we run out of time. Great conversation tonight. You remember the neutron bomb?
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And as a kid, when for me, I was probably 10 or 11 or 12 years old when they first started talking about that. The neutron bomb only kills people, leaves your house standing. Right? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And that was the most twisted thought for me as a kid. Absolutely unbelievable. Jon, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
It's always great to talk to you.
Man. And again, everybody, nomorefakenews.com. That's where you need to start off your day every day. Jon Rappoport, you're the absolute very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy, as always.
Get some sleep.
Okay.
Jon Rappoport, everybody. nomorefakenews.com. Fader Night. Sorry I've ignored the phone calls. I do have calls on hold. And if you're on hold, stay right there. All right? But, man, when the conversation is good, it's just good. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be taking your phone calls and just wrapping this beautiful night up right after this short break. Stay with us.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I had gout in both my knees, and it's gone.
Well, I'm pretty stupid. I should have ordered it 15 years ago. Best thing I ever got in my. It's the most effective product that I've ever bought in my life.
He had eczema on his hand, and it cracked for years. He did anything from doctor, every cream, everything. And 3 months on the veggies and fruit, it was gone.
They're just awesome. They keep asking me, what am I doing? I told them what I did with my cholesterol. I had the blood test, right? And it went down 100 points. 262, now it's 162. Everything is just perfect.
Call now to find out how to get your free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 800-2468-751. That's 800-2468-751. Call now, 800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com.
Use promo code TSL.
Would odors, mold, and mildew describe your basement or crawl space? It doesn't have to be that way. Transform them into a fresh, healthy, usable one with the technologically advanced Wave Moisture Control Units. The computerized operation maximizes moisture control and also expels harmful radon, combustion gases, and numerous other pollutants. Dehumidifiers are old technology that do nothing for air quality and waste energy. Wave units are intelligent, self-monitoring, do not need maintenance, and will save you hundreds in electricity. Wave units are still running effectively over 15 years. They've been tested and installed in public and military housing and by property managers nationwide. Buy a unit now, and if your home is not fresher and drier, you can return it for a full refund for up to 12 months. What have you got to lose? Call now. 1-888-618-WAVE. 1-888-618-WAVE. Or visit mydryhome.com. That's mydryhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
This is Kristen, Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Thursday night, Fader Night. Thank you, Jon Rappoport. What a great conversation. Seriously, great. Man, oh man, oh man. NoMoreFakeNews.com. That's where you can find Jon every single day. He's one of the best writers and researchers out there. Seriously, go start your day every day at NoMoreFakeNews.com. All right, phone lines are open, 323-825-5045. We've got a few calls on hold. Let's go. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, Jamie. It's Tanette.
How are you?
Good. Very good.
You called me, Tanette. Yeah, what's cracking? What's on your mind?
So Eric posted some pictures earlier tonight about some pretty good UFO pictures.
Okay.
Did you see those?
I didn't. I stopped briefly and looked at them. I know he sent some videos in too that we have. I saw a couple of pieces of them. So, what did you think?
I saw the same thing out I'm in Washington State, so I saw them out my northwestern sky. And it was basically the same thing, except that they weren't moving.
Oh, really? When did this happen, Tanette?
It's been probably 3 months ago.
Yeah, so it's still fresh on your mind. What did you see?
The lights over there looked like Orion's belt, like there was like 3 of them lining up, and there was a few clouds, so I couldn't see if there was any more around it, but they basically looked like Orion's belt, and that's not where Orion's belt is supposed to be.
Yeah. It's strange when that happens, isn't it? So yours was with 3. I think Eric's had 4, right?
4 and 5, I think.
Yeah, 4 and 5. I was looking at the video earlier. Let me go straight to his feed here because so many pictures were posted tonight. I mean, so many tweets. Let me go back down. Let me get through here. Come on, Eric. Where's your pictures from tonight? He posts so much. I'm looking here. Marijuana.
I know.
He's got the marijuana tweets going. Let me get past this. Okay, I don't see. Okay, Eric. Well, anyway, I did see the video, though. I did see it. What I want to do is a little more analysis on the video. He had mentioned last night that it was against the mountains, right? So, and that the lights were below the mountains. I'm not sure if that in what he showed us tonight in the feed, if that was the same thing that he was describing to me last night. I was a little confused about it. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure. These ones would have been, so off to the west would have been pretty much over either the Cascades or the the Olympics or the Puget Sound, like way out there.
Right. So it was out well, you know the area. It was out over the ocean and not near mountains, correct?
No.
Right.
I think it was past the mountains. It was way up in the sky.
Yeah, because Puget Sound, even though there's some islands out there, there isn't any tall mountains or anything like that. In other words, the reason why I bring that up is if you are looking at something, it could be car lights, driving around the hills and the mountains, right?
Oh, no. This was way up in the air.
Way up in the air.
No possibility of anything else.
Right. And now, how do you know it wasn't Orion? Well, it wouldn't have been Orion's. But did you have a star chart? Were you able to know where Orion's belt was?
No, but you can see around here, Orion's belt always comes at the same place. We're basically in the same viewing area as you are down there in California.
Okay.
So this was to the northwest.
Northwest. I got you. Up towards Victoria.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Up towards it would be like towards the west of Canada.
Yeah, the west of Canada, Port Angeles, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been up there. I've done the island hopping, right? Just, across, you know what I'm talking about. I have no idea how many islands are up there, but so fun to do.
Yeah, there's lots.
Yeah, I've driven all the way to Port Angeles, which was a crazy thing to do, but it's flat. Right? It's flat. So if you're going to see something in the sky, it's nothing that would be on the top of a mountain somewhere. We're talking about out over the ocean.
Yeah.
Now, what colors were they? You didn't tell me.
They were just basically a bright white, and they were kind of shimmering, like going in and out. I guess you would call it pulsing.
Yeah, in Eric's videos, what I found interesting was that 2 were kind of pulsing. I'm looking at it here. I'm looking at, let me mute. Okay, I've got it muted. Good. I'm looking at the video here, and definitely the second one from the right is definitely doing a little pulse action. But you can see the mountain range. You can see the mountain range below this. So clearly these are up in the sky, unless there's mountains in the background. That's a possibility. But there's also, so you have this group of 4. Now the second one from the left is pulsing, and they're lighting up. They're lighting up and dimming. And then there's another object off to the left that's a little bit smaller that I see in this video that nobody else here is talking about. And then they go to a straight line. Yeah, that's a pretty trippy video. I agree with you, Tanette. So you think that this is pretty close to what you saw?
Yeah, it's at the, I watched them for probably 15, 20 minutes, and the ones I saw didn't move.
At all?
No, but they were like getting brighter and dimmer. One of them stayed the same, almost like a star or something. And then the other 2 on the opposite sides kept getting brighter and dimmer, but they didn't move the whole time.
Right. Yeah, this is a great shot here. I just wish I'd like to see the same place during the day. That's the only thing. I would like to see the exact same shot during the day. Is there, when I see something like this, I need to, before I start to jump into conclusions and start to twist my mind up, what I need to know that let's take the easy stuff out of it, right? Is there a mountain back there? Is there a road? Is there something that this could be sitting on top of? Because it's so close to the horizon, right? Now,
I have mountains in the view, but these were way up above the mountains.
Right.
There's no possible way.
Yeah, as opposed to Eric's shot here, which is, straight across the floor of the desert here.
Yeah, just above.
And it's in Goodyear, Arizona. So that's the only thing, because once you do that and you have this same exact shot and you look, and the mountains are out of the play, right? You remove the mountains out of the play. Now we have something here.
Yeah, absolutely. The mountains were not even close to it.
Now, I'll tell you something. Here in Burbank, we are surrounded. We're at the foothills of these hills, and they're almost mountains, right? Right here, right in the backyard. And so around the valley, here where these mountains are, not only are there roads where cars are driving, from a distance, because there's houses up there, and from a distance, you could see these headlights moving through, and you would swear that it was something floating in the sky until you get right up on it and you realize it's the hill. But there's a second thing that comes into play here, is there are radio antennas all over the place. And I'm telling you right now, if somebody didn't know and they were looking up at one of these mountains, it looks like a pretty strange light or a cluster of lights right up in the sky. That doesn't look like a plane. But I know it's radio towers because I live here.
So I have the Olympic Mountains on the other side of me.
Right.
And I have the Cascades on the other side of me.
Right.
So these were miles and miles above the mountains. They were like in the sky.
Tanette, before I let you go, did you take pictures?
Yeah, I got some pictures, but like I said, they're not moving. So I don't know how much the pictures would tell you.
Well, thank you for the phone call. Send the pictures to Rita. I want to see them.
Okay, will do.
Thank you so much, Tanette. Be safe and be well.
All right. Good night, Jimmy.
Good night. Oh, great sighting. And this, the footage from Eric is really, really, really good, and it's really clear. But like I said, I want to see the daytime shot of the same place so we can just start to put all of this together. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, it's Gene from Atlanta. How you doing, man?
Hey, Gene, how are you?
I'm fine, man. I just want to say tonight's show was actually the icing on your Monday night show. The guy who was from the CIA, David Robert or whatever, vice versa.
Yeah, Robert David Steele.
Everything that he was saying, in my opinion, for being the person that he is and who he was and what he did, you can't dispute any of what he was saying. You feel me?
Yep, I do.
Yeah. So as far as disclosure is concerned, man, that's old hat as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And Gene, you know, you bring up a really good point, because having Jon Rappoport on tonight, who comes from another mindset, right? And I think he remains neutral when it comes to the politics side of things. You know, Jon is more into trying to investigate the conspiracy behind what is driving things. But Robert Steele, yes, he's obviously a Trump supporter, but what Robert also said is if Trump stumbles just a little bit, we're going to run from him. Right? And so it's not like he's some guy that's going to take a bullet for Trump. He suggested the exact opposite. But to have Rappoport on tonight, who is from another place altogether when it comes to this, but the two conversations kind of connected some dots, didn't they? Kind of touched each other, didn't they? Isn't that the way that you felt?
Yes, they did. You know, Monday night show, Jimmy, I must have played that thing over and over and over at least 6 times to hear it over, to, you know, tell myself, am I really hearing what this guy's saying? Is what he's saying to me, like, you know, right on the money? Because everything he said, man, made all the sense in the world to me. And who else would know, you know, all this stuff but him, because he's in there. He's right in the mix of all of it. You feel me?
Yep, I do. And you know what? I very rarely, and I mean rarely, listen to this show, right? I'm too busy, first off. I don't have the time to go back, but because I'm prepping for the next show, right? But the Robert David Steele interview, I listened to twice. I listened to it twice. I really,
man,
I was like,
that show was like, I'm telling you, man, you had me captivated with that guy. It's like I had to listen to it. I'd keep playing it over and over because he was right on the money with everything he was saying.
Yeah, I was
like, okay.
I was really afraid for the audience to divide and conquer and get angry and, you know, Jimmy, what are you doing? But I didn't get any of that. I think everybody realized that show was important, and it was something that we all had to listen to. And I've had very, very, very little negative feedback. You know, I think both sides of the fence.
There was no room for any negative feedback, because what he was saying was true, man. I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, man. I feel you. What was your... Okay, let me ask you... I don't care if what side of the aisle you're on. That's not. You don't answer that. I don't want to know. Neither does the audience. But let me ask you that in a very general sense, that the people that voted for Trump, right, the ones that listened to his core message, do you think that they're freaking out right now? Do you think that they're about to maybe duck and cover, right? You know what I mean? Because
I think after all that has happened, and that percentage that had voted for him are like pinching themselves more than once and asking themselves, what in the hell did we just do?
Right. And
am I making any kind of sense?
Yeah, you are. And I'll tell you something else. And then you have the other side of the aisle that are like, hey, you know, yeah, man, this Trump guy's pretty cool, right? It's just like, wait a minute here. You know, I'm flipping out. It's a great. You couldn't write a better script for Hollywood. It's definitely entertaining.
Yeah, it was last night. Nori said something that made sense too. He said, "You got here now with things all the way they are. You got 3 bullies. You got Trump, you got Putin, and you got this other guy in China, or trying to figure out, okay, who's the best one on the block here." And here we are all stuck in the middle of it because they're trying to decide, okay, who's got the biggest kahunas, you know what I mean, to make the first move.
Right.
That's scary, man. That's very scary.
Yeah, because we have China's direct influence with North Korea. We have Russia's direct influence with Syria, right? And then here we are wanting our own situations to develop with both. right, with both countries. It's a trippy thing that we find ourselves in. And then you can go and throw Afghanistan in the mix just for good measure.
Right. Well, the old guy was, I think, the Secretary of Defense that went over there to talk to whomever. I can't remember his name.
Rex Tillerson.
It was said that within that meeting that if we make another move on Syria in terms of what was been going on, that their hand would be forced to retaliate, so to speak. Now, how true that was, I don't know how true it is, but that's some feedback I got from other sources that I've heard.
Well,
I don't know if you heard anything about that.
Well, this is, I'll tell you the real truth. The reason why Russia wouldn't do anything at all is because there's nothing in Syria worth fighting for. You know, there aren't gold mines or uranium or, they got a little bit of oil. It's not that big of a deal. That all of that infrastructure has been blown up now anyway. They're not sitting on diamond mines. There isn't anything there. All right. Now the situation with ISIS, that's a different thing altogether. And Russia has their interest in defeating ISIS just like we do. But they're only going to prop up Assad and stand by him as far as they can. But I'm telling you right now, if things spin out of control, that Russia's not going to go to war with us. No, not over Syria. There's other issues that they would, but it just wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't. There's no way that it will happen. And if Assad is counting on that, then he's sorely mistaken. He's not important. He's not important. He's not important enough. There's nothing in Syria worth it. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well, I got to agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And, but my take on this whole nuclear thing, as far as anybody pushing any buttons or anything, I mean, look at it for what it really is. And this is real talk. Okay, let's say, hypothetically, it were to happen. Okay, so you got one person that comes out, or one group of people comes out that becomes the winner on all this. What are you going to govern? A pile of ashes in a world that's worthless? What sense does it make to even go that route?
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying here. I totally agree with you. And then, this is something else that's really trippy, Gene, is we dropped that Moab today. That is a couple of matchsticks away from a nuclear weapon, right? It's not.
Right.
But that is a serious showing of gonad. That takes.
Yeah. But was it necessary though?
I don't know. It's certainly it's the showing of how you had that mating dance between a couple of a couple of animals, right?
Yeah.
And they show their feathers, like a peacock.
Right.
It's it's like that. And that's what happened today. I mean, that Moab, that was the last thing that I expected. I expected the nuclear test to come out of North Korea. I expected, something else out of Assad. I expected another Tomahawk missile attack. I really did. I did not expect a Moab to be dropped in Afghanistan on a tunnel system. No, that completely caught me by surprise. So that's talk about it. A dog that goes around and pees on his territory. Well, we had a good dose of that today. Hey, Gene, thank you for being the last caller tonight, my friend, and don't be a stranger.
All right, Jimmy. All right, man. Thanks a lot. Take care.
You too. Great points tonight. Thank you so much, Gene. Great conversation tonight. Jon Rappoport, thank you for the phone calls. And I know I didn't take as many calls as I normally do, but I was just too engaged with John, and I didn't want to cut that off. And Thursday night is Fader night. It's your night. But it was also a special conversation with John. So there you go. I'm going to leave you with this. I wanted to jump back. We were talking about the neutron bomb earlier. For those of you that don't remember the neutron bomb, if you were born in the 80s, right? If you're 35 years old right now, you've never heard of the neutron bomb. If you were born in 1970, you probably don't remember. But the neutron bomb was this weapon that we brought out to basically threaten the Soviet Union. but it was so crazy that the design of the weapon was to leave, not to blow up tanks, not to blow up buildings, not to blow up streets or infrastructure. It was designed to take out human beings. And so I went and jumped on. It's just like the most perverted thought, right? The most who would design? And John was talking about Lawrence Livermore, right? And there are physicists that are designing these weapons. Yeah, man, let's figure this out. We need the radiation. That's what we really need. We don't need to burn things down, because the neutron radiation will clear out. And that was the other thing. It's going to clear out, and we'll be able to go in and occupy a country. Now, that is the most frightening anti-human, anti-moral value thing that one can think of. But it was a threat. Now, this is it right here off of Wikipedia. The neutron bomb, officially termed as a type of enhanced radiation weapon, an ERW, is a low-yield thermal nuclear weapon designed to maximize lethal neutron radiation in the immediate vicinity of the blast while minimizing the physical power of the blast itself. The neutron release generated by a nuclear fusion reaction is intentionally allowed to escape the weapon rather than being absorbed by other components. The neutron burst, which is used as the primary destructive action in the warhead, is able to penetrate enemy armor more effectively than a conventional warhead, thus making it more lethal as a tactical weapon. The concept was originally developed in the United States in the 1950s and 1960s. It was seen as a cleaner bomb for the use against massed Soviet armored divisions, as these would be used over Allied nations, notably West Germany. The reduced blast damage was seen as an important advantage. Developed for the Lance missile was underway in the 1960s, but abandoned in favor of a conventional design. How crazy is that? I mean, seriously nuts. The neutron bomb. Go and look it up for yourself. Unbelievable. All right. 2, I'm going to leave you with this. I got to get out of here. 2 Secret Service officers have been fired over their handling of that March 10th incident in which a White House fence jumper made it to just a few steps from the main door to the executive mansion. He was actually hanging out underneath Trump's bedroom window, by the way. The officers, both with less than 1 year on the job, were assigned to guard posts located at the Treasury building and at the entrance to the East Executive Avenue. Video surveillance shows the alleged intruder, 26-year-old Jonathan Tran of California, first jumping a fence in the northwest corner of the Treasury building. Then he climbed a 5-foot fence, an 8-foot gate, and then hopped a 3.5-foot fence while Secret Service members struggled to locate him. Tran set off multiple alarm sensors all over the White House before being discovered. He had been on the White House grounds undetected for more than 15 minutes. And that is another episode of Fader Night right here on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I want to remind everybody, tomorrow night I will be over at Coast to Coast AM, sitting in for George Norrie. Friday night, open lines. My guest tomorrow night is going to be the one and only, our friend, Brad Olson. So come and hang out with me tomorrow night over at Coast to Coast. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale, Webmaster, Drew, The Geek, Music, Doug Aldrich, Intro, Spaceboy, SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication, KGRA, The Planet. Thank you to Jon Rappoport for hanging out with us tonight. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll see everybody tomorrow night over at Coast to Coast AM. Until then, everybody be safe. Go Backley Tappy.